night after night.
Yeah, I don't know that I could do that so much anymore.
Well, I probably can't, but I sure would try.
Good afternoon, it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to call the community safety meeting to order for Tuesday, July 15th. It's 4 o'clock. Can we have a motion on the minutes?
Moved.
Second, all in favor? Next committee meeting date is September 9th at 4 p.m. here in the Anderson Room. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, we have two delegations. The first one is Mr. Robert Groenhoff, BC Emergency Health Services. If you'd like to come and join us here at the table. Welcome.
Thank you. So thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Rob Groenhoff. I am the Clinical Operations Manager for BC Ambulance for Vancouver South and Richmond. A small presentation for you up here today. So BC EHS is a unique ambulance service in that we are a provincial service, not regional. There is a lot of demand for our services and those demands are only increasing. It's important to note that in addition to responding to emergency and non-emergency calls, we also are responsible for interfacility transfers that require paramedic care. We operate in a complex system of partnerships and arrangements across the province, including Richmond Fire Rescue, YVR Fire Rescue, and the RCMP in Richmond. BC EHS has almost 6,400 employees across the province, including paramedics, emergency medical call takers, dispatchers, administrators, and leaders. Just a small snapshot of our 2024 employees. We are continuously hiring to support the growing demands placed upon the system, including 50 new casual employees that we've hired in Richmond this year. In 2024, we've hired 1,200 paramedic, dispatchers, patient transfer positions, and we've also hired 112 emergency medical call takers. We have a ground fleet of approximately 650 ambulances across the province, 19 low acuity response units, 260 non-ambulatory vehicles, and single response units. An example of a single response unit would be like our street supervisors. Aviation fleet of 6 helicopters, 10 airplanes, with approximately 7,300 patient transfers annually. BC EHS has 182 stations throughout the province. We have 2 stations in Richmond, north and south. The north station is combined with the number 3 fire hall here in Richmond. In addition, we also have a 24-hour bike squad at YVR. Now, BC EHS uses a dynamic deployment model, which means that our crews can respond to any call at any time, anywhere in the province. So just because a call occurs in Richmond doesn't mean you're going to get a Richmond ambulance. It could be from Burnaby, it could be from Vancouver, it could be from anywhere. We're constantly moving. We have 3 dispatch centers, Vancouver, Kamloops, and Victoria. And they provide 911 call taking, dispatching of ambulances, and the planning and coordination of the interfacility transfers. So 2024 responded to over 683,000 calls, 608,000 911 events, and 75,000 interfacility transfers. Now keep in mind 683,000, that's events, not actual calls into the 911 center. One event can generate multiple calls. So that equates to more than one call every minute of every single day. In Richmond, over 16,800 calls last year, equivalent to 46 calls every single day. So over the years, our healthcare system has been impacted by overdose-related emergencies, extreme weather events, and growing and aging populations with more complex health needs. As a result of these factors, BC EHS continues to see an increase in call volume. The Ministry of Health is working in collaboration with BC EHS, the local fire departments, municipalities, and other organizations to improve the out-of-hospital care to best serve the people throughout the province of BC. From 2017 to 2024, we've seen a 31% increase in our call volume throughout the province. So 2017, just under 1,500 calls a day, and we're just right around 2,000 a day in 2024. Now we're able to respond to critically ill and injured patients first by using our medical priority dispatch system and our clinical response model. With this, life-threatening symptoms such as cardiac arrest, chest pain, breathing, and difficulty breathing and severe bleeding are prioritized. The clinical response model is a color-coded resource allocation approach, with color indicating the resources, response type, and relative priority of a call in range from purple, the most serious, to blue, the least. And it also allows calls to be upgraded if the patient's condition worsens. So for example, the red chest pain call, we could elevate that to a purple if the person changes presentation. Now we try to respond to our highest acuity calls first. In order to do that, we have developed a Lincoln referral unit, or some call it a low acuity response unit. And this allows us to respond to lower acuity calls while leaving our emergency fleet to deal with the higher priority calls. We have 19 of these units throughout the province, and Richmond is just about to get one now. These units are operating in Richmond right now, but they are from other communities. So April 2024 to April 2025, in Richmond, 16,830 calls. Of those, 37% of those were either purple or red, the highest priority calls. Twenty 27% were orange and 34% were yellow. The most frequent type of calls, as you can see, are falls, sick people, the unconscious fainting people, breathing, chest pain, traffic incidences, hemorrhaging, and strokes. Again, Richmond has an aging and elderly population, higher incidences of falls in this community. Overdoses in Richmond have been up 6% in 2025. But since 2017, they've been up 80%. However, in the big picture, overdose-related calls account for 2.5% of all medical events in Richmond. And this heat map shows approximate locations of where these calls are located or occurring. Other events that have trending upwards are, again, falls, the breathing problems, and the chest pain. Mental health events have actually been going down since 2017-18. It doesn't mean there are less people suffering from mental health emergencies. It's just we're not seeing them as a service. And I would just like to mention this. We always encourage people to never use alone, but in reality, people do. This is a simple app that people are able to put onto their phone. They're able to enter their location, either physical location or a general location, what they are using, and set a timer. If they don't respond to their phone within that time period, a call will be generated to our 911 center, and we'll get an emergency response. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few questions here. Councillor Heed?
Yes, thanks very much for this. My ears perked up on the overdose stuff. And so your data is showing about an 8% increase in 2025. I believe that's what you said.
Six.
And it's
6%.
80% since 2017,
Correct.
which is pretty well consistent, even when you start to look at Richmond Fire Service and the calls they're attending and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, when you talked about that app, I did not know about that app. And I think we'd want to do some type of public awareness and regarding that app, because that is very good. And where did that come from, Ron?
We've been promoting it since, I can't tell you how many years now, but we have been promoting it for a while. It is used quite a bit in the downtown east side.
Is that? Really? Boy, that would be something that we should kind of link from our website with respect to that. So the automatic dialing goes through the 911 and it's downloaded to you.
Yeah, it is, yes, through ECOM to you.
Great, thank you.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, just quickly, three things. First of all, thanks very much for the comprehensive presentation. I think it's really good with the material that you have in there to educate those that are less educated in the area. So kudos to you on that. Number two, can we get a copy of those slides? Can staff in some way, are they shareable as a public domain?
They're actually locked right now, but I can get you a copy.
Well, and circulate to all council, not just committee here. I appreciate it very much. I'm just curious, a lot to fathom there. I was a bit curious with your 31% increase since 2017. Did anybody correlate that with increase in population, increased from 2017 to now as well? Not saying, and the reason I'm asking that is for 2026, 2027, population is going to go up regardless what you do. And it kind of gives you where you, if I miss, you're going, given you, when I use that, you only have 6,400 employees when you should have many, many more. And we know the situation in previous, I'm going to leave those alone, that we can lobby on your behalf to increase the men and women that are frontliners for us. So it'd be interesting to note that and take that back, whoever's doing your stats on it, because I think probably part of that will be population, but also aging population too. So anyhow, thank you very much. Great job. I appreciate it.
Councillor Hobbs?
Thanks, and through the chair, thanks for the presentation. It was chocked full of information, and I didn't know about the app either. And just further to Councillor Heed's comments, that can you even in a general sense, quantify the uptake on that app? You say it's been around for a while, so I'm wondering, like, have you broken down how many of your calls are from that app?
I couldn't today, no.
Yeah.
I can find out.
Unfair question, but I'm kind of curious what the uptake is on it. And then the only other question left for me is just, when you talk about 81% kind of filled positions overall, I think that was on there. I'm curious if that is your typical, and Councilor McNulty just mentioned vacancies, is that the typical kind of level that you run at, 81% filled? And I'm also curious if there's regional differences for you, because in a lot of other areas, you know, housing, expenses, that kind of thing creates regional differences between Metro and maybe up somewhere north. So regional differences, and is that your typical vacancy?
There's staffing issues throughout the province. It is a provincial service.
Right.
We do our best to mitigate those staffing issues. We have currently a traveling paramedic program where our paramedics are able to spend 2 weeks here in the city, and then they spend 2 weeks in a remote community. And we're trying to increase the staffing in those remote communities by doing that.
Okay, yeah, I won't get into it further, but I know it's a challenge for everybody, so thanks.
Councillor Gillanders?
Thank you, and yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. I was curious about the number when it showed the incidents, the calls for the year in all the different neighborhoods in Richmond, and then I guess the 2,000 must have been at the airport.
YVR, yeah.
Yeah, and so it generates the most calls, almost all the neighborhoods combined. But it's a regional service, so this isn't a Richmond service, right? It's a regional, like, it's a provincial entity.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
And Councillor Wolf has a question online. If you can make it.
Yeah, thank you very much. When I maps, they went by pretty quick. I live out in Hamilton. I just wonder, do you have statistics on Hamilton? And when I'm usually driving on the Highway 91 East-West connector, and I rarely see ambulances like hauling it out to probably the Hamilton Village Care Home. So I'm wondering, is it mostly serviced from Queensborough, New Westminster? As you said, it's kind of a regional support.
Sorry, I missed part of that, but I think you're saying the Queensborough area is serviced by Richmond?
Oh,
Is that the
in
question, or-
Richmond, which is East Richmond? Is that serviced by Queensborough more?
Again, we're a provincial service, so like I said, with the dynamic movement of our ambulances around, it could be responded to by any car from anywhere.
Okay, and then did you have statistics like on those maps? Like you showed all different regions of Richmond, but I don't know if I actually saw Hamilton ones.
No, I don't think I have anything from the Queensborough area specifically.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Au.
Yes. So you mentioned that the number of mental health calls down. So any reason or any observation about why it was going down?
Which calls?
The mental health.
Mental health.
Mental health. You have a number of resources here in Richmond, joint operation team, you have there's the community to acute team that's here in Richmond. A lot of these resources, there's community nurses that deal with a lot of the mental health things before we would even get called. So these are relatively newer programs, I believe, to Richmond, so they would take up a lot of the calls that we would normally see otherwise.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it. And next we have Samantha De Oliveira to speak. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourself, please, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
My name is Samantha, and I'm a concerned resident of Richmond. I'm here to share a deeply troubling and personal experience that happened near the temporary modular housing operated by Rain City at Alderbridge and Elmbridge Way. In the early evening of July 4th, while I was visiting the nearby dog park, a place that I frequent multiple times a day, I witnessed something that has left me shaken. A man approached a tree just outside the park and began urinating on the sidewalk. When I politely asked him to stop so I could pass by, he responded by fully exposing himself and masturbating toward me. It was horrifically disturbing and deeply violating. No one should be subjected to that, not in a public space, not anywhere. I reported the incident to both Rain City and the Richmond RCMP. They confirmed that they were familiar with the individual and that he is a guest of a resident at the facility. Thanks to the work of the police, the man has since been arrested, and for that I'm grateful. But the truth is, the problem goes far beyond just one individual. What I experienced is part of a much larger and growing issue. Open drug use, fights, theft, damage to people's property, and aggressive behavior are becoming the norm and not the exception. It's driving families, seniors, and residents like myself away from what should be a safe and welcoming space. I do want to be absolutely clear that I support transitional and supportive housing. I believe people in crisis deserve compassion, resources, and the chance to rebuild their lives. However, that does not mean turning a blind eye to dangerous or criminal behavior. The behavior that I described and that many others have seen is not just disruptive, but it's quite traumatic. Imagine if a child had witnessed what I saw or a young girl walking home alone. These spaces are meant for community and connection, and no one should feel afraid to walk in their own neighborhood. I want families like mine to feel safe bringing their children and pets to the park. That's why I'm asking the Safety Committee and the City of Richmond to take action. First, I think there should be a greater oversight of residents and the guests at the housing facility. I do understand people need support, but they also need to be held accountable for their behavior. Without clear expectations and consistent consequences, these problems will continue to spiral. Second, I believe we need a stronger RCMP presence in the area, not just at night, but during the day as well. The sense of lawlessness in that space is growing, and it needs to be addressed head-on. Additionally, some lighting and CCTV could also make a difference in preventing crime and maybe deterring some inappropriate behavior. I want our community to be one where compassion and accountability can coexist, but most importantly, I want public safety to remain the top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few questions for you, if you
Sure.
don't mind. Councillor Heed?
Thank you very much for coming forward. And, I think it's refreshing to hear the story from your perspective. I think that is great. That's what's kind of missing in this long-going dialogue we're having with respect to that housing. And I got to tell you right up front, the behavior of that individual is completely and utterly unacceptable. And I'm glad that the RCMP were able to arrest him, and hopefully they have what we call a no-go to that particular area.
They do, yes.
So that is encouraging, and to give you a little bit of security too. I know that area well, and I know the dog park well. I drive by there because I go to the gym there nearby all the time. I'm going to throw something out to you because you brought it up, but I know we'll get pushback from some people. And that's the lighting and CCTV. Do you think if we had something of that nature, whether it be temporary or longstanding, that would deter a lot of the activity for these individuals?
I don't think so. However, something that's missing from us being able to present charges to the Crown when I spoke with the RCMP officer is the lack of video evidence. Unfortunately, my condo doesn't face, where our CCTV is, doesn't face the dog park. And the officer I spoke with had said that perhaps if we'd gotten it on video, that would help push the charges further to the Crown. So I don't think it would deter behavior, but I think it might help in holding some of these individuals accountable for this illegal behavior.
And let me just put something else out to you, and we utilize this in Vancouver, and it's utilized now. It's utilized in Surrey and in Abbotsford. They have what they call this portable mobile CCTV. You've probably seen it on the news where the camera's up there in a bit of a tower.
Right.
And it's clearly identified of what it is, and the area is clearly identified what it is. I've got my own personal feelings of it, and some people think that may be a little too much. But I want to hear from you. What do you think that would be? Would you feel more comfortable going to the dog park with your dog if that was there? And I'm not saying permanent, but just temporarily, till we get a hold of this and determine what we're going to do with that housing project.
Yeah, I think that, again, I don't think it's going to deter any behavior, but I do think that in cases like this, where maybe it would help have some proof of what's happening, that could be beneficial. Lighting, I don't think is going to deter behavior, but I actually think that that would be easier for the public to assess if the dog park, especially in the evening, is a safe place to go to. I myself have been cornered in that dog park in the evening, and it's because it's very dark, and they tend to go towards the back of it, which is very difficult to see, and you don't see until you're already in there. And there's a one way out, one way in type of thing. So again, I don't think it's necessarily going to deter any type of behavior, but I think it might bring a different level of safety to the public that are interacting with that area.
So the perception of fear would be different from the way it is now.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Galanders?
Thank you, and thank you so much for coming and telling us what happened. And like Councillor Heath said, it was absolutely horrific that happened to you, and I'm so sorry to hear that. It's very traumatic and haunting, I'm sure.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So I'd like to find out from Rain City, you know, like how recently that person had been a guest, because we've heard that, you know, some people may be guests until they're not allowed to be anymore because of their bad behavior,
Right.
but they still have a spouse that's in there, so they still linger around and then try to meet up. And there are some people that frequent these neighborhoods in Richmond that have been kicked out of both places, and they are repeat offenders for crime, property crime, violent crime, and they keep getting released onto the streets. And it must be so frustrating for our RCMP officers and frustrating for everybody else, because I think the vast majority of the residents are good people and just need the supports like you say. So I was just more just commenting that, you know, do you think that, I mean, a lot of this problem is the criminal justice system?
I definitely do think that our system is overrun. I was very grateful for the work that the RCMP, and I even contacted Rain City as soon as it happened, and I have a pretty good rapport with them as well. I tend to go to them first when I see things that maybe are not what they should be. And they did let me know that this person was not going to be allowed on their property. And when I did see them the next day, I did call over, and they promptly went over and asked him to leave, which unfortunately only worked for a day or two, and then he came back, but the RCMP came back and arrested him, I was grateful for that. I think that's why I said in my statement that I think there should be some consequences to the people that are in the house that have the guests. Not that I want to see them suffer. However, what we're doing now doesn't seem to be working. So maybe if there is a level of fear that they might lose services because of somebody that they are bringing around.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that will help, but anything different maybe to try.
Yeah. No, that's fair, and I think you have some really good suggestions. And I know that since the decriminalization ended, however many months ago that was, that we did instruct police to frequent that area and other areas more often and tell people to move along and not allow the open drug use. So we can ask them to, follow up on their daytime, if they're
Yeah, I
increased.
definitely see them in the evening,
Yeah.
but I've definitely noticed, especially now that the weather is nicer, incidences are occurring more throughout the day as well, so. And I do want to say that there have been many times I've gone into the dog park and I have interacted with some individuals and just simply asked, I have my son with me, do you mind taking this elsewhere? And they have been very lovely to deal with. So again, it's not every person, but it does seem like it is a growing concern.
Thank you.
Councillor McNulty.
Thanks very much, and I'm just very sorry to hear your late, but I want to thank you for the first email you sent us.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that, thank you, and I appreciate you coming today. I have a couple questions of you, and also I have a question of staff. In terms of the reaction that you took to Rain City, you had a discussion back and forth, and the guest was asked to leave, and that, but did they say they were going to do anything else any differently? That if somebody else came in as a guest?
Not that I've heard from them. They haven't advised me if their procedures are going to change at all. Just in terms of this individual, I've just heard that he's not allowed in their area anymore from them, but also from the RCMP as well.
I was interested in your comments from Councillor Heed, which I agree with Councillor Heed about video surveillance. You know, we have dash cam on cars. People put up cameras for security in businesses, et cetera. And yet we have a, well, I'll call it vulnerable building over there, and we don't have anything. And interested in your reaction to it, to have it. Do any of the residents across the street or whatever have cameras?
Not that I'm aware of. I am a part of our neighborhood watch group, and I did let everyone know in there as well. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone has anything that faces that direction. And currently, right now, the trees are very overgrown along that sidewalk. So it can also be very isolating in the dog park as well. Right now, because of the trees, it is a very small space. It's not a very open, large area. You can feel quite boxed in when you're there. So as far as I know, no one has any video footage.
And it is a public dog park, as you know.
It
It's
is
not
a-
just for you or
That's
the
right.
people there. It's blocks around where people have dogs and.
Correct,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Just a comment through the chair. I'd like to ask staff to talk to Rain City and see what they did and how they reported this incident to them. You know, their contract's coming up next year. I mean, these are the kinds of things we need to know for things that are coming on. I think it's extremely important for us to know. And the other question I would have, I hear trees, et cetera, and I guess there's no Parks and Rec, we'll bring it up next week. If we got trees and we got foliage around there that's covering and shading, why isn't it cut down? We should be in there doing it and dealing with it and cleaning it up right off the bat. I asked staff through community safety, through the chair, to go to Parks and Rec and let's have a crew over there tomorrow and cut the trees down. You know, I know, and not the trees, but
Oh,
whatever.
trim them back a bit, yeah.
The back and clean it up so that it is visible. At least you have that feeling of, I'm in there, I'm not alone, I'm not.
Right, yeah, and I do want to suggest too, potentially, there is on the side of the street that faces Rona, there is a gate that was put in for them to be able to come in and cut the grass. It might be something perhaps maybe that we could look into having it be an accessible gate for people to walk in and out of, just as another point of exit.
Two entrances.
Two
or
entrances
exits.
and exits.
It's another
Yeah.
item. I think these things, if we can, to staff, and obviously we can bring these up at Parks and Rec and get Mr. Gross. And I'd like to make that as a motion. I refer that to staff and make it a public motion in support of what you've brought forward, which troubles us all, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Might I suggest we make a a referral at the end that
Okay,
encompasses
well,
a
but I
lot of
mean-
these things.
Okay.
So we'll let
Put it
Counselor
all in-
Hobbs speak,
Yes, okay. He
and
can
we'll
even-
come back to you.
I don't care who makes a motion so long as it's made.
Thanks, and through the chair. Yeah, I agree with Councillor McNulty on the referral idea. Again, thanks for coming forward and, conveying to us kind of some terrible circumstances that you've gone through, and I appreciated the email as well that we received. Just on a couple issues that you've raised, police presence, bylaw presence, those are things that we can look at. It'd probably be part of the referral that Councillor McNulty was just talking about. Greater oversight you mentioned, and I'm just curious as to what you mean by greater oversight, aside from external things like police and bylaws. Are you talking about within Range City too,
Yes.
administratively?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's something that we can communicate with them about as well, which would probably be part of the referral. Now, the other thing that we had done a few months ago, probably 10 months ago now, we did have a couple community forums, and I was curious, were you able to participate in those at all, or?
I was not made aware of them, no.
Okay, do you think that that's something that we could look at again in terms of gathering more information and more
Yeah.
incidents perhaps and more solutions? Because I
Yeah.
like the fact that you've come forward with solutions as well that might work. Okay, maybe that's something that can be part of the referral too when we get to that. And one thing I want to mention was, police and bylaw presence, isn't consistent all the time. And I appreciate the fact that you've mentioned other times of day are important. But one of the solutions that you just mentioned I really like, and that's the 2 entrances, because those are also 2 exits. So
Yes.
it's always good to have those in situations. And about the video surveillance thing, I think that's something that would be good to look into too, because you can see them at different events, and they're temporary, they're there for a reason, and they can come and they can go. But I'd be interested to see if we can look further into that. But I
Yeah.
do want to just say thank you very much for coming forward. And
Thank
I
you,
believe
yeah.
we'll be looking at this more closely. Thank you.
Yeah, another point that I just wanted to make about Rain City is, that maybe you can ask them about is they have a lot of, I don't want to say foot traffic, but there is a lot of people that kind of hang out on the front steps or along the ramp, and that might be something to bring up to them if they're residents of the facility, if perhaps they could use their space that they have in the back of their building, if they are guests out there, that maybe there's a different kind of gathering place that's less, because I often see people will move to the other side of the road because of what's going on, and so maybe just that could be a point that maybe is brought up to them as well, if there's a conversation that's had.
Fair comment. Thank you.
Counselor Heed, you have another question?
Yes, I have a question, and then I just want some procedural guidance here. On the 2 entrances and exits from it, the way the dog park is set up is you go in one gate, you close that gate, and then you secure whatever or let your dog off leash, and then you open the second one. So if you're going to do that at the back end on the Rona side, you would have to have the same thing there. So there'd be a cost implication. But from a procedural point of view, I was going to wait till the acting chief was up here, and I was going to talk to her about the mobile CCTV system. Her thoughts on that. I don't know if she wants to do this now or not, because I'd be making a motion separate from what Councillor McNulty was referring to, all these other things, because there will be a cost implication with respect to that. And I think it's worth looking at, for example, if you're going to put it there temporarily, yes, let's see what's going on. Let's see if it's a deterrence. These community festivals we're having, like Canada Day and all these other things, you would want to have them there to help the police with what is going on. But I want to make that as a separate motion, not to include it in what Councillor McNulty was doing.
It seems to me the RCMP used it when there was some vandalism happening to some of our special crosswalks.
Yeah.
So it seems to me they had some sort of surveillance happening.
There was,
Okay.
but it was something different.
Okay, well, we can make the referral after then. Okay, so if I understand correctly, the referral that we want to make stemming out of this is refer to staff for options to increase oversight of residents and guests at Rain City and where people congregate at Rain City. Number 2, to increase RCMP presence during the day. And number 3, to increase safety, come forward with options to increase safety at the dog park, including lighting, CCTV, tree maintenance, and having a second entrance. Does that summarize what we got? Okay.
I'm so moved that.
Okay, and second? Did you want to speak to that?
I'm not going to, I think we've spoken.
To enough, but on the first one, I want to know what their guest rules are. Okay, and who is a guest and does not, if I invite somebody, then I'm actually responsible for that guest. Okay, I don't get off scot-free. That's why I want that referred to staff, that, everybody out there in the steps are my guests, so to speak, and nobody's accountable to anything. And so that's why, I hope that's included in the first one you did, Chair, on that. So that would be the oversight of Rain City, who bears responsibility for what goes around the place. It's not just within the walls.
So we want to see oversight and responsibilities and accountabilities
From Rain
of
City.
residents and guests at Rain City.
Yeah. If that's included in the referral, it's good.
Okay.
I think
thank you.
we've covered it, and I'd like to see this as a separate one because I think we know where the monies are.
Okay, Councillor Hobbs, do you want to speak on the referral?
Yes, thank you through the chair. Yeah, the one thing that I might add to it, I'm not sure if it was in what you read out, was just, I think there needs to be a community engagement piece.
Oh, and the community forum. Sorry, that was
Or
one more
com-
item on my
community
list
engagement.
that I didn't say.
That is kind of in an ongoing way.
Okay.
Because, things come up.
So creation of ongoing community
However you write.
engagement opportunities.
Just community engagement, they can
Okay.
figure it out.
All right. Okay, so all in favor? Thank you, that's passed. Thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh, are you going to put the other one forward?
Well, I think you want to talk to the
You can do it after.
superintendent first. Well, I don't think it's going anywhere. Okay. Item number 2, Community Bylaws and Monthly Activity Report. Mr. Corrado.
To the chair, I just have a brief update that stems from some queries that were raised by council from the previous June community safety meeting. The first was a query regarding the cleanup costs for the Tree Island dock and vessel cleanup. The city was responsible for $9,500 of the cleanup of the dock. That was paid for through a council-approved contingency reserve that stemmed from the waterfront, the wharf bylaw that was rolled out. And there's a $44,500 still remaining in that reserve. The rest of the cost was borne by Transport Canada, who was responsible for removal of a vessel. I'm not sure what those costs are. And then the other update was regarding animal control enforcement, off-leash dogs along the West Dyke Trail. So there's been more proactive patrolling in that area, and you won't see those numbers necessarily reflected in this report, but you will see significant ticket issuance increases for June and July. There's a bit of a lagging effect because we're roughly 2 months lag in reporting. And that's it, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Councillor Heed?
Yes, regarding your monthly activity report, I just want you to look at CS9 where we talk about the unsightly premises. We're starting to see a bit of an uptick in that. And I know Councillor McNulty will probably want to comment about this too. We're really getting a lot of complaints regarding the unsightly premises in the Hamilton area. With the overgrown grass, overgrown trees, even on the city property where it's actually coming across pathways that people use for their wheelchairs and bike paths and something like that. So it'd be good if we can get some type of attention up there, Mr. Corrado, with respect to not only the ones, and most of it's just off of Westminster Highway there, and where the development that's not going forward anymore is. So we can get, if it's private people, held to account to deal with it, and if it's on city property, at least our bylaw people can get that to our parks people to go there and fix up, because as Councillor McNulty will talk to you about, we're getting multiple contacts with respect to that. So, you know, that's what I picked up here, and I see our numbers are going up compared to previous years on those unsightly premises, so that's a good one. The other one is parking enforcement. When we do some revenue comparisons, I'm really surprised that we're up significantly in that. Is that because of increased resources we have with respect to that, or some type of automated system we're dealing with?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I would say it's a combination of the factors you've just mentioned. We have staff that have transitioned from temporary status to full-time employment. We're fully staffed, and we're also deploying more technology at our disposal, and we're proactively looking at other technologies which should assist us for a lot of the time violations, such as license plate recognition, but also a lot of the mobility software platforms are really taking a leap ahead, which has enabled us to use hotspot, hot time enforcement. So we are actively exploring a lot of new technologies that will assist us in terms of down to the minute in terms of parking enforcement. So those numbers are up due to a combination of factors.
So we should expect, although we budgeted in our numbers for 2025, I'm sure we'll exceed the revenue that we anticipated we would get from the parking enforcement and violations.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I think that might be a reasonable assumption at this point, given that we're into the, although really we're reflecting 6 months of data here. I mean, the trend, if it holds, would reflect that. I think there's another key factor here in addition to the enforcement related revenue is the flip side of that, which is the compliance related revenue that comes through people complying and paying the meters. We're seeing a significant uptick there. So I would say that our ultimate goal is to drive that lawful income that's generated that way. So we might down the road see an ebbing off of enforcement, but an ever increasing trend in terms of compliance, in terms of the meter revenue. That's our ultimate goal.
In my last one, I just want your comments with respect to how we're doing on the enforcement of those delivery trucks that were parking in bike lanes and school zones and all that, mainly on One Road, Two Road, and Railway.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, so staff are now taking steps to run a couple of special operations. In addition to that, circling back to my earlier point with technology, we're looking at, for some of our mobile software solutions, some potential enforcement options that are coming with these new software packages that can help us zero in on where some of these areas are. And also we're looking at solutions with the transportation department to look at more designated areas, because we do understand that deliveries need to occur. So we do ultimately want to drive compliance, and we understand that this is a problem. It's such a problem that there was recently an article in the Washington Post on this. So many different cities around the United States and North America and Europe are experiencing a similar problem due to delivery trucks. So there's a lot of novel solutions, and there's some software out there. But ultimately, we believe compliance will be driven through enforcement. So we're planning a couple operations in the next month or so.
Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs?
Thanks, and through the chair. Yeah, similar thoughts on the parking revenue, and I like the answer about compliance, because that's true in many respects for many different things. Just one quick comment, and it's a compliment on the RV parking situation in different spots. And one real hot spot was Vanguard. I was down there a few days ago, and Vanguard has been completely cleaned up, which I think is a positive for the people that live in the area, but also a lot of the businesses. And I know that it's a complicated thing with people with complex issues, and I know it's a joint operation team effort in many respects, and I know you get a lot of complaints about that, and I've been a few of those complaints myself. So the team that's been working on it has been doing a great job, and I know there's a couple other spots that have drawn the attention of your staff. So thanks. I've had a couple people comment on it, and they've noticed it, so thanks for all that work.
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, I'll definitely take that compliment back to staff, and also very much the RCMP traffic enforcement units are very much part of those joint operations. And I believe we heard a presentation earlier today from BC Ambulance as well. They are part of the joint operations team. So it's a large group of multiple agencies and departments involved.
Thank you. Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, three things if I can. First of all, I'd like to go back to Hamilton with regard to cleaning up, especially along Westminster Highway and the bike path for strollers. And there's a 95-year-old woman that likes to get out once in a while with her wheelchair and drive along to it. And so I'm not saying just her, but it's everybody else along there. There is a crew, there is a workshop crew who goes out there every day. And at 10 after 1 in the little park there, you'll see them parked there, okay? And so they could be doing some things there. No, so I'm going to leave that one alone for now and let you figure that out. But in that, I've concerns generally in the city about trees around signs. You know, they're hanging on. We agree with foliage and what have you. But if you want Finlayson Drive, there has to be a cherry tree just going right over it. And if you weren't knowing what's there, you can't see signs. And we need to have that. I know this is a public works issue, probably more so than anything. But that and sight lines at intersections. I mean, you have the greatest juniper hedge in the country, but I have to go out into it, number 4 road at Arvite, and get hit first, and then I can see where I'm going, you know, after the cars, because they're just going down 4 roads, lickety split. So I think it's something we need to work together interdepartmentally, is what I'm getting at. I have a question, though, if I may. The boulevard in front of a home, okay? I'm assuming it's just like snow and snow removal, that I am responsible for my 50 feet in front of my home before I go on to Williams. Am I not?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, you're under the boulevard maintenance bylaw, you're responsible for maintaining the shrubs at a certain height, and you can't put items or obstacles on there that might obscure traffic. Particularly, that's why those height provisions are there for vegetation, because you suggest it could be dangerous. It could also obscure the address for people, for first responders trying to identify where you are. There are certain responsibilities that are the private homeowners as well, and staff do enforce that. The bylaw department does as well. And we do prioritize particularly those visual obstructions. So subjects of complaint are usually a bit taken aback because of the fact that we're prioritizing those calls. Sometimes you could have signage issues. Real estate agents might have left their signs in certain locations that might obscure the ability to see oncoming traffic, or residents might have let the shrubbery overgrow, so you can't get a clear view of the oncoming traffic. So we prioritize those calls for service, and we require immediate resolution. And we have the provisions and the tools to go in there and remedy that and bill back.
I thought so, and I agree with you on it, and I think we need to let the public know and remind them more often. I'll give you some addresses after, not the minutes, where they're sightly premises. Things grow up, they let it grow 4 feet high, and you can't see the address. But more importantly, seeds are spread everywhere else to everybody who is looking after things, and people forget about that. Following on Councillor Hobbs' comment, we have in Richmond a fair number of people living in cars. Are we compassionate on that? You know, we've cleaned up this, where they've amalgamated, but I can tell you places where You know, when I'm out at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning and walking, they're sleeping in their car on the side of the road, or they happen to be in a park. I mean, I have no problem with that because they're singleton, they're not doing anything wrong, and this is how and then they move and they'll come back a day and a half later because somebody maybe spotted them, reported them, or moved around. So do we have any policy on that? It's getting to be a bigger issue.
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, we do. Our initial approach is to, particularly for people that are new to our community, is to remind them of the rules and also work with our outreach teams, and our staff is aware of certain resources that are available to individuals who don't have a home and are living in their vehicle. So we work very closely with MSDPR, Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, to try to hub people into programs and to ensure that they are still receiving services and they are in medical contact. Examples of where we've exercised compassion, I think, there are numerous examples, but particularly in the Vulcan Way episode, there were a number of seniors who had disabilities, and we worked closely with MSDPR to allow them to stay actually an additional month until we routed them into a care facility that could take care of their particular needs. I would suggest it is predicated on prior behavior, and if we've already afforded people of those different outreach efforts and reminded them of the rules, yet there's still non-compliance, then at that point compassion yields to enforcement. So I think each case is different, but our first attempt is to seek to, as we like to say, to know the individual first before jumping to a conclusion.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion? Second, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Fire Rescue, Fire Chief Wishlove.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I have nothing further to add to my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Galanders?
It's okay. Thanks. Thank you for the report, and lots of significant events that were called, and good job as usual. On CS17, you mentioned the Public Works Open House, and attendees were encouraged to sign up for Richmond BC Alert. And we had a presentation about this app last year, and we encouraged council members to sign up for BC Alert. And I was just wondering if you had an idea of where it was at now as far as uptake. I think we were at like 1,500 residents last year. I was wondering if you know any current numbers.
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, I don't have an exact number on me today, but I'm certainly happy to look into it. I know through the great work of the outreach team and the emergency programs folks, there's been a big push on that, and I expect those numbers are higher than they were last year for sure, but I just don't have that number right in front of me.
Yeah, that's okay. Do you know if people were receptive to it at the open house? Like, did people just signed up?
Through the chair to Councillor Galanders, I am aware that they were there. I was there for part of it, and I saw people engaging with our outreach team one-on-one. What I can say is that typically what we find a lot of success in is the folks who are perhaps a bit more mature really appreciate the one-on-one coaching to help get signed up on the spot by the team. So
For sure. Good. I'm glad you did that. Thank you.
thank you.
Second, all in favor? Oh,
Oh,
Councillor Heed?
Thanks, Chief, for this. How are we doing on the vehicle purchases? Where are we on these new vehicles that you require?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, you're talking about the apparatus.
Yes.
Yes. We're working with purchasing to finalize what the request for purchase would look like, and then that'll be issued the next couple of months to the market, after which we'd review the submissions, evaluate them, and then execute.
And how many pieces are we looking at?
Initially, we're going to be looking at a number of pieces. I'm hesitant to say that publicly right now because the RFP hasn't gone out, and my preference would be to allow that number to be more publicly available once we issue it. It's a significant number of apparatus over several years.
So what's our timeline for new apparatus?
For delivery, that will depend on what the vendors get back to us. And I know I'm not answering your question, but until I issue that RFP out to the market, I'm concerned about my ability to create a fair opportunity for the bidding.
You know, I got to tell you, I'm not concerned about that, but Madam Chair, maybe this would be an issue we go into close in September and discuss, because I know there are some significant issues regarding apparatus.
Thank you.
Move. All in favor? Oh, Councillor McNulty?
Sorry. Following up on that, Chief, I've been around longer than you have. I'd like you to reflect back into the minutes, and I'd like staff, maybe through our general manager. We approved a couple of fire trucks 10 years ago, which we had never got, okay? And the money is there. So following up on Councilor Heath, I'd like to see this on an agenda in camera to start with in September. I think this is on camera because we are dealing with budgets and we are behind. And previous councils have approved vehicles and they have not been delivered. So before your time, one of them. So I think we need to pull those minutes out and see where we are. So I'll leave that with Mr. Aichi on that. Okay, I think it's important. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Move. All in favor? Thank you. Any briefing?
I have no verbal update for you today, thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Last call? Okay. Thank you. RCMP monthly activity report, Superintendent Julie Drotar.
Good afternoon. I don't have anything to add to the report and ready for questions, if there's any.
Oh, there's always one. I don't think Councillor Heath has ever missed an opportunity.
I'm teasing.
And I am just going to go on the one issue. You know what it is. It's the mobile surveillance trailer. I went in and looked at some similar things on the rental costs, the purchase costs. I have no idea, but I know in my experience, and I'm sure in your experience, several of your jurisdictions have utilized this, and several jurisdictions around here utilize it. And do we have access to one from the LMD, or are we looking at buying our own? Because it's probably going to be about $100,000.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. We do have some that are available to the whole district within the provincial headquarters of the RCMP or national headquarters. We do not have the specific large mobile one that you are referring to that you are used to see in the Vancouver area, for instance. These would have to be purchased within our own area, I would say. They're very expensive, like you said. They're over $100,000 for actually these surveillance camera and the trailer that it sits on. The camera that we have are limited. They're on vehicles or in mobile vehicles or trailers that we have in the RCMP at headquarters. Needless to say, we can rely on them, but they're limited numbers.
So based on your experience, and I know it's vast, the utility of this, you've heard what the resident that lives near that housing complex that we have significant issues with. How the utility of that around there, especially around the park there, and of course for a limited amount of time, what do you think that could do or assist you to do? Because I understand some of your members explained to her that had we had video, we probably could have got the perpetrator a lot sooner or that. But just from your vast amount of experience, how valuable is this particular tool?
So there's two ways these tools can be utilized normally when we have video surveillance. It either to aid into, like it was mentioned, in order to pursue charges and bring Crown and all the evidence forward. The other one would be a deterrent or assisting as well us in large event like Canada Day, for instance, or major events in the community. So it assists us to have more eyes on the population to see what's going on. This could also serve as a deterrent. It could be utilized. We can test it. I'm not saying it will make a difference, but it's worth trying.
Thank you.
Councillor Galanders?
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for the report. Just a question on the analysis of police statistics. So many things are still moving in the right direction or down or a little bit up, but still within the average. But the commercial break-and enters being up 85% from last month. And then the 5-year average is around 37. The incidences are around 37 compared to the 5-year average of 25. So what's our response to that, and what's the plan to help with that?
So it is 19% compared to the same period of last year at height. It is definitely high. We actually are using a lot of data in order to attack this kind of problems that we have. We have our monthly ComStat meeting, or more so a criminal review meetings that we actually do. And we address these statistics by multiple ways, either by actually going directly to all these, businesses, thank you, and talking to them, either going through the kind of system that they have in heightening their security that they have, either by cutting, you all know, with the either the bushes area, the trees, or the security, the fencing, and all the system as well as doing surveillance and stuff. So it's an education piece as well as an enforcement piece and doing scenarios. But we concentrate on doing multifaceted at the same time in order to actually address these issues in our community.
So when it's this much of an increase, and you have to have that education piece and then get the people kind of armed up to prevent them from it. So does that mean that it's pretty much new businesses every time? Like, for the most part, it's new businesses getting hit and not the same ones over and over again once they put in the measures?
It's twofold. It could be the same business a lot of time. Like in those situations here, we have a lot of construction sites that are being hit, as well as apartment building. So this takes a little bit longer in order for them to address certain safety issues that we may have. In construction site, well, they do get hit on multiple times. So it's us talking to them and then being there more present in the area as well.
Okay, and then just a follow-up, we heard the presentation from the delegate about the housing. Did you just take it under advisement and perhaps do some more day patrols on the open drug use in that
Yes, I
area?
really do appreciate what was brought forward, and I will do. I know that we actually have members directly going into that area daily and evening as well, so I will just bring it back and actually address it and see if what we're doing currently right now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion?
Second?
All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Wolf. We have Councillor Wolf on line. Go ahead.
It's just a quick question, and it's not.
Did you banish him? Oh, pity. Okay, give him a second. Okay. All right, motion on the floor? Second, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything to report?
Nothing.
Okay, for the briefing? Thank you. Do we have a manager's report? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess it'll go to the general manager, and then he can work with the RCMP, but when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a referral motion that the general manager of Community Safety and Law explore the purchase or rental of a mobile surveillance trailer system for utilization by the RCMP.
Okay. Counselor Hobbs?
Yeah, thanks, and through the chair, yeah, I'll be supporting this. As we've talked about, it's good for a number of different things. It's not just solving or deterring criminal acts, it's deterring and working on antisocial behavior. It can work in conjunction with a command vehicle that we're getting. It's, so it's not just crime, it's crowd control, it's event management, it's resource deployment. And so it also goes a long way with people when they see them to addressing that perception of fear or crime, which we heard from someone today about. So I'll be supporting it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mobile surveillance. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Were we able to get Counselor Wolf back on, or does he still
Yeah,
wanna-
I'm on. I just don't know if you can hear me.
Yes?
Oh.
Sorry.
So, yeah, so my
Superintendent.
question was for Superintendent, but it could also just be to you, to the chair. So I don't know, but there are a couple, Mayor of Surrey, Brenda Locke, issued a statement to get all social media to ban violent videos and cancel accounts. I'm not sure, is that very localized for Surrey, or are we having those issues in Richmond as well?
Sorry, you broke up. Could you ask it again? Speak smoothly.
So it's with social media, like TikTok accounts that show violent act in the city, and they're saying that's happening in Surrey a lot. Is it happening in Richmond too?
Sorry, there's a
There's
TikTok account?
TikTok accounts showing violence in the city of Surrey. Are we seeing TikTok accounts showing violence in Richmond? Is that correct, Councillor Wolf?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have not been made aware of any TikTok account actually showing or depicting any kind of acts of violence taking place in Richmond. But I just want to rest assured that if we are seeing any of those, we would be taking immediate action into trying to identify who the account belongs to and who are the people inside that are being depicted in the video.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, motion to adjourn? Thanks. Thank you, we are adjourned.